It's 6 o'clock and I'd like to call this meeting of the Laramie County School District #1 Board of Trustees to order. We'll start with the pledge and we don't have any kiddos leading it tonight. So if you'll just stand and join us, we appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Newton, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, there are no adjustments to this evening's agenda.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to adopt the agenda without any addenda. I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will move right on ahead. We do not have any staff or students here tonight to recognize, so we'll go on into our information and reports, starting with public comment from visitors, first concerning agenda topics and then non-agenda topics. Before we start that section of the agenda, I wanted to read a statement. The purpose of the board meeting is to conduct the business of the district publicly. The board sincerely values community input and feedback on school operations and welcomes public comment on both agenda and non-agenda items. Individuals wishing to comment during a board meeting must sign up by 5:45 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Sign up for public comment can be done electronically by accessing the form available on board docs under the public comment portion of the meeting agenda. Alternatively, individuals may contact Darlene Davis to be added to the electronic sign-up sheet. We will begin by hearing public comment on agenda items, followed by public comment on non-agenda items. Please keep in mind, this is a time for board members to listen and consider, but not to comment or debate. The board asks that all speakers state their first and last name, keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, and note that if you wish to discuss matters pertaining to the employment of a district staff member, such as the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, investigation, discipline, or dismissal of an employee, this will not be done during the public comment portion of the meeting. Such comments should be directed to the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, or you may request to meet with the board during executive session. So we'll start with public comment on agenda items. I'm going to check to make sure, see if anybody signed up, but we do not have anyone signed up for that public comment portion. So moving into the public comment on non-agenda items, I believe we just have one person, and that is Patricia McCoy, who I believe will be online.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board and superintendent. My name is Patricia McCoy, and I'm here tonight as a concerned parent and a steadfast advocate for the Second Amendment, particularly considering the new law brought about by House Bill 172. I've reviewed the proposed policy, and I want to emphasize the importance of framing our response not with fear, but with an unwavering commitment to liberty and genuine safety. Let's be clear. The Wyoming legislature, reflecting the will of the people, has affirmed the right of law-abiding citizens to carry firearms for self-defense, even on school grounds. This wasn't a random act. It was a deliberate move to address the vulnerability of what have unfortunately become soft targets. The tragic reality is that gun-free zones have in practice served as an invitation to those who wish to do harm, advertising places where their victims are disarmed and defenseless. The premise that guns simply have no place in our schools is a sentiment I understand, but it flies in the face of both constitutional rights and practical security. When we disarm good people, we do not make them safer, we make them more susceptible to evil. Our focus should not be on lamenting the presence of firearms in the hands of trained law-abiding citizens, but empowering those individuals to be an immediate line of defense for our children. I've seen the proposed training requirements, and while I appreciate the emphasis on proficiency, let's ensure these are reasonable and accessible, not prohibited. We need to remember that these are not new duties we are imposing. These are rights that individuals are exercising. We should be encouraging responsible self-defense, not creating bureaucratic hurdles that discourage our most dedicated employees and volunteers from protecting our students. The best defense is often a good offense, and an armed trained staff member is far more immediate and deterrent than waiting minutes for law enforcement to arrive. Furthermore, let's ensure that any discussion of liability correctly places responsibility. An individual exercising their constitutional right to self-defense, especially when doing so responsibly and within the bounds of the law, should not be unfairly burdened by the district. Per the bringer of the bill, Representative Harrelson, you cannot burden the teachers with the cost, nor can you require more training than the law allows for, and you should not be using training restrictions to deter teachers from lawfully carrying. This new law offers us an opportunity, not a burden. It allows us to transition from a reactive posture to a proactive one. By embracing the right to self-defense, we can transform our schools from potential targets into secure environments where those who mean harm will think twice. Let's work together to implement this law in a way that truly prioritizes the safety and security of every student and staff member by empowering, not restricting, responsible gun ownership. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Next on our agenda is just a discussion of upcoming meetings. For public, we have scheduled a special session on June 30th. We will use that meeting to discuss the proposed gun policy that is currently out for 45-day review. The public comment time for that ends tomorrow, Friday. So we will still be receiving public comment through Friday. That will give our legal office a chance to compile those comments, get them out to us as a board, and then we'll have some time next week to dig through those and really be considering, the comments we receive, but what to do with that policy on June 30th. So when we meet on June 30th, we will need to vote to adopt emergency rules with that policy, which would be where we adopt it as it is and then have more time to consider or make changes. Is that correct? Or
Madam Chair, so you'll have the option if you don't have any amendments to the policy. Come on. If there are no amendments to the policy, you can adopt it as a permanent rule the night of June 30th.
Right.
If you do want to make amendments to the policy, depending on what those are, they will likely need to go out for an additional 45-day period. In that situation, if you want to have a policy in place for July 1, which is when the new law takes effect, then you would need to adopt the policy on an emergency basis, which would be in effect for up to 120 days while you consider any potential revisions that you would have.
okay. So really two paths that night, but maybe we'll be able to take public comment and tweak it and vote on something that night. But so we will make a choice and we'll make some movement on that at that meeting on June 30th. And we should have all of our board members back for that conversation. Then on July 9th, we will have executive trustees with the superintendent at 1 p.m. and that will be our board planning time for the July 14th meeting. Trustee Humphrey has not attended in a bit and she did mention that she would be available for that one. But is there another trustee that would like to attend that meeting on the 9th? Nobody?
If
Trustee Cook can, okay, all right. Then we will plan on Trustee Humphrey and Trustee Cook that night. After that, we will have on July 14th at 6 p.m. our regular board meeting and the budget hearing. And then August 4th would be our next meeting at 5 p.m. with a work session, 6 p.m. regular board meeting. Do we have any individual board communications or reports at this time? Trustee Cook?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't been to any schools, but I still would like to address the cell phone policy. and I've stated it before, but for the reasons of assisting students more time on task in their classrooms and to assist teachers so they know that we have their backs and there's policy that has some teeth to it. So to that end, I met with Ms. Polly today, and she told me what I needed to do in order to continue down this path. I've sent to the trustees my thoughts on some changes. So I'll do that to Ms. Polly and Dr. Newton. And then they said they would take those comments, and I would imagine if anybody else wants to send something to them, that would be fine. And then they'll take that and go to the policy board or tweak it and then bring it to the policy board. I was under the false impression it could be done quickly, and it's not the case, so I'm still learning. So anyway, I was so hopeful that we could have something in place for teachers to use this fall, and that's not gonna happen before school begins. So, but just know that we're still working on it and that we've read the comments. We know that there's people out there that would like a little bit stronger policy. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Trustee Hinkle?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We also had discussed possibly just as a board, because many of us do agree with increasing the cell phone policy. But in the meantime, we as a board would like to let all the teachers and administration know that we expect that our current policy will be fully enforced as currently written, and that there will not be the leeway that has been going on currently with teachers being able to do their own individual idea of what they want for their classroom. So I think we had talked about that. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to wait for everybody to be back?
I would think from conversations that I've had with board members and even conversations here that we would have enough board members that are on board with moving forward with policy changes to sort of lock down more what we're doing with cell phones in the school or not doing with cell phones, electronic devices in the school. So at this time, Dr. Newton, could we ask you to get that message out that the board intends to make some changes to our cell phone policy and would like for the school year to start with stricter enforcement of what's already on the books? And then as a board, we can start looking at proposed language for that policy and start that process once Amy has a chance to work with the Policy Advisory Committee.
Madam Chair, absolutely. I will make sure that that's a special point of emphasis as we begin having conversations with our administrators, letting them know very clear that the directive from the board is that we are absolutely protecting instructional time in as it relates especially to cell phone usage.
Okay, thank you. And then moving forward, Barbara, I appreciate you meeting with Ms. Polly today, but what do you think, Ms. Polly, would be a time frame we could look at to possibly look at a draft with some proposed changes?
Madam Chair, unfortunately, we're in a time of year where there's not a whole lot of staff around to kind of consult with. What we typically do through the policymaking process is we start with administration in the administration building. So in this case, it would most likely be folks from Department of Instruction, you know, Ms. Hall, Mr. Kern, to start getting an idea of what the issues are with the policy as it currently exists and what some ideas are to move forward. Once kind of we have a draft, taking into account Trustee Cook's suggestions, any other suggestions from board members, please feel free to forward those on to me. Once we look at that and get kind of a good draft going, we would then put forward it onto the policy advisory. And that's really where we kind of run into a bit of a timeliness issue because, you know, most staff are off contract for the summer months. So I would anticipate that that is something that we could forward on, you know, if we're looking at the end of August, when staff starts coming back on contract, and getting their input and feedback on what that policy, any suggestions that they have, which then would likely put you into December before you would have a draft that the board would vote on to put out for 45-day public comment review.
Did you say December?
Sorry, September.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a very long process.
It would be very long. No, sorry, September. I apologize.
Okay,
if I'm
good,
mistaken.
thank you.
So September, which, depending on what your meeting dates are, it's probably going to be October, November, but with the holidays, we're looking at December, and it might be that it's in place for the second semester as kind of an implementation, but working through that process. I would anticipate a good draft to go before this board by your September meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. I forget about summertime, but yeah, okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, Dr. Newton, I'll turn it over to you. Do you have anything to share?
Madam Chair, just a couple of items this evening, as I sometimes do, offer some clarification on some items that will be voted on this evening, in particular, a few consent agenda items, just for clarification for the board and the public. If you'll note, item D 2.1 is renewing a contract with New BOCES. And in case anyone is unaware, that is the contract that we maintain for students with significant behavioral problems. And so it's a not to exceed amount. It does not mean that we will be immediately expending the approval amount. But because it's hard to predict when the students will need those services, we needed to get a not to exceed amount approved again. And it serves students, day treatment students here in Cheyenne. The New BOCES group serves students for day treatment here, but it also covers the cost for full-time residential placements. We have some students that are full-time in a residential setting, and that's up in Gillette. So that is D 2.1. D 2.2 is might give you the sense that it's exclusively a motion for virtual offerings for students. And I would just remind the board that this contract does cover the rare occurrence for virtual needs for kids when they have some extenuating life circumstances. But predominantly D 2.2 is our contract that allows students to make up credit recovery, or for those who have fallen behind in cohort, it allows them to get caught back up. And I'm pleased to report, just got our year-end data from the fine folks there at Edgenuity. And we had 713 distinct students complete 1,897 courses. Now, we wish that number were lower because that would suggest that fewer kids need help. But I am very encouraged that given that we do have some kids who needed that extra help, they sure got it. So we're very pleased with the results there. So that's what that D 2.2 covers. And then the final one, we are awful proud of our work around concurrent and dual enrollment, D 2.4. And there's an amendment that is coming tonight, and it might jog your memory that we had a recent approval of this, but this is an amendment to increase the cost, and that's just simply because this is the time of year where bills are still rolling in, and so we needed to make sure that we captured the full extent. I would note, this is important, I believe, to note that of that $863,000 or $865,000, I believe that's mentioned in the contract, that all of the funds for concurrent enrollment is a cost neutral proposition between us and LCCC. And of the 865,000, that represents 700,000, over 700,000. So most of that approval amount actually is money that is exchanged between us. Keep in mind, we provide the teachers during concurrent enrollment options, and they provide the tuition. So that is cost neutral. So it looks like a very large number, but in the end, it is not a large number net back to us for this wonderful opportunity for students to get both high school and college credit. That is D 2.4. And with that, Madam Chair, that's the end of my comments this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Newton. We'll move on to consent agenda. All items listed with the designation of CA are considered to be routine items by the governing body and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. Any items removed from the consent agenda will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does any board member request to remove a motion from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion?
Yes. I move to approve all motions listed as consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor of approving all motions listed as consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Those have been approved. Going on down now to new business. Do we have a motion for D 3.1?
Yes, ma'am. I move to authorize an increase in student and adult meal prices beginning with the 2025-26 school year as follows. Elementary breakfast to $2.25, an increase of 75 cents from $1.50. Secondary breakfast to $2.50, increase of 75 cents from $1.75. Adult breakfast to $4.25, an increase of $1.25 from $3. Elementary lunch to $3.25, an increase of 50 cents from $2.75. Secondary lunch, an increase to $3.50, an increase of 50 cents from $3. And adult lunch to $5.50, an increase of $1.25 from $4.25.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to authorize an increase in student and adult meal prices beginning with the 2025-26 school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That has been approved.
I move to grant permission for the All-City Children's Chorus to fundraise for their trip to New York and Philadelphia on June 16th, 2026 to June 21, 2026.
So I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to grant permission for the All-City Children's Chorus to fundraise for what looks like an incredible trip. Do we have a second? I should have asked on the meal prices if we had any discussion. Do we have any discussion on this one or questions?
Madam Chairman, do we know what this is for? What the trip is for? We're just always curious.
Hey there, I'm Mary Ann Fritz, the Executive Director. We will be participating in a festival called 250 Concerts, celebrating the 250th celebration for the Declaration of Independence. And we will be giving 3 of those 250 concerts.
Oh, fun.
And we'll be touring a lot of historical places in both New York and Philadelphia.
Great.
While we're there.
Thank you.
Mrs.
you.
Fritz, may I ask a question? I'd like to ask a question. How many years do you think you've traveled with the choir to different places around the country?
Me personally.
Well, how many years have the choir
The
traveled?
chorus, when it first started, traveled about every 3rd year. And then when Diane Holgren took over in 95, we started traveling every year. And then as costs rose, our board decided that probably every other year would be a little more helpful for parents to raise funds for their kids. Well, if you want to come down and look at our wall, we have
A lot of years. It's okay.
every trip that we've taken, but probably over this next year will be our 50th year with the district. And hopefully you're going to have a great celebration with that. And then we would end it with this tour. But I would say we've probably taken between 30 and 35 tours with the All City kids.
Incredible. Great opportunities for those kids.
And I did 8 of them.
You did 8 of them.
And you liked it.
All right. Yeah, Trustee Cook.
So
Couple questions. Yeah, a couple questions. One, what are some of the fundraisers that you're gonna be doing? And then secondly, will we be able to hear that music here before you travel and do those 3 concerts?
We normally give 4 concerts a year, and some of the music may come from those. But then we will also, before we leave, present that concert because a lot of parents do not travel with us. So we do present it here. So the parents and you're all invited to come. That date hasn't been set yet, but it will be close to the time we leave. The fundraisers, we do both group fundraisers and individual fundraisers. Individually, the kids will sell World's Finest Chocolate. Each year they do poinsettias in November. And then we do Eileen's Colossal Cookies. And then 4 times during the year, we have what's called a sing-a-thon where they get pledges. If they come and sing for 2 hours and you pledge like $10 an hour for their singing. Those are individual and they go into their individual accounts towards their trip. We just formed a committee of parents to do some group fundraisers, and they're looking at like Culver's where the parents and kids would serve suppers and we would get meals. Freddy's and several of the local restaurants will do allow the kids to raise funds. We're looking at putting together some baskets and raffling those off at concerts. And so there's a lot of different things that would hopefully lower the entire price for everybody on those group fundraisers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Fritz.
Thank you, and thank you so much.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of granting permission for the All City Children's Chorus to fundraise for their trip to New York and Philadelphia, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that has been approved. Thank you. And we have one more motion.
I move to approve the administrator professional contract on the attached list of the 2025-2026 school year and to place them on the appropriate step of the administrator professional salary schedule.
Second,
I second that.
we have a motion and a second to approve the administrator professional contract on the attached list for the coming school year. Do we have any questions on that or any discussion? Trustee Hinkle?
Chairman, my usual question, is this a new position or is this filling an empty spot?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Trustee Hinkle, thank you. It is filling an empty spot, but I will also add that it is a school psychologist position. Those are not easy to fill. And as it turns out, a number of us have worked with Dr. Warnagora in the past. And so we are very pleased that she will be returning to Laramie 1.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that has been approved. The next regular board meeting with the budget hearing will be held on Monday, July 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. The business of the district is done. Do we have a motion now for executive session?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I move to go into executive session at this time prior to adjournment for the purpose of possible student long-term suspension or expulsions, personnel, legal advice, and potential litigation.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session at this time. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will break to go into executive session at this time and